friends, and welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be doing yet another 24-hour readathon. I have not done one of these in a few months now, which is pretty shocking for myself. I usually like to do these at least every 2 months. I'm not really sure why. I think it's just a really fun challenge, and it is nice to be able to just dedicate a day to reading. I really enjoy it, but either way, we are going to start another one today. Before I officially start the timer and the countdown, I want to talk about the books that I want to read today, and then we'll get started. The first book I've actually already started in a prior readathon, and that is The Children of Blood and Bone. This is an African mythology retelling, and I just barely started it in my last 48-hour readathon, but I want to finish it and start with it for this 24-hour readathon. I think it'll just be kind of a fun start, especially since I'm very much still in that fantasy mode, so it'll be a great time. The next physical book that I would like to read is The Devil in the White City. This kind of interweaves the history of the Great Fair in Chicago and also the really awful murders that happened during that time. There was pretty much a serial killer during the World Fair in Chicago, and it just is kind of an insane story. So this book kind of covers both things. It will switch back and forth, so I'm excited to read it. And also it's just really fun to learn about the history of the city that you live in, so I felt like this would be a really fun book to give a shot. And I also really love that it's kind of in that murder mystery vein. It's kind of scary, kind of creepy, which I think is perfect for just the upcoming fall season, which y'all know I am very excited about, so super pumped about this. The next two books that I want to read are going to be on my Kindle. I find that I read better during the evening on my Kindle. I can stay more awake and active and alert, so that's why I'm going to have some Kindle books. The first one is Divine Rivals. I have seen a lot about this book. It's a really, really popular fantasy romance. I felt like it would be a really great book to kind of pick me up if I'm not feeling some of the other books that I'm reading. But to be honest, other than the genre and the popularity, I don't know that much about it, so I'm kind of excited to go in blind with this one. The last book on my list for this readathon is If We Were Villains, which, again, kind of jumping into that fall mode, is perfect for this time of year. It is under the dark academia vein, and with that, it's critiquing Shakespearean pretentious students. So that's kind of the vibe of this book from my understanding of it. I've seen this absolutely everywhere, and I really love dark academia. A lot of the books that I love are very much under this lane, so I'm very excited to give it a shot. Either way, it is time to start my timer. It is 10:50 right now. And so let's go ahead and start. All right, let's get reading. I am 3 hours in, and I'm officially halfway done with Children of Blood and Bone, and I am absolutely loving it so far. It's so good. It literally captured me within the first chapter, and clearly I've been speeding through this. I haven't wanted to take a break, which is really, really nice. It just is so well written. The magic is fascinating. It's a classic fantasy world where magic was taken away, and so they're on this journey to revive it. It's really, really cool. It also kind of reminds me of Avatar just a bit in the way that the characters are interacting with each other. There is definitely a Zuko character, which I am absolutely loving. This prince who is just very, very angry and hunting this group down that's trying to save magic. It's so good so far. I'm really, really enjoying it. And yeah, I'm gonna get back to reading. Hopefully I can finish this soon. Alright, so it's just over the 5-hour mark into this challenge, and I just finished Children of Blood and Bone, and I really enjoyed this book. I'm still very much reeling from the ending. It was very intense and insane and so captivating. I really, really enjoyed this book. It was a wonderful YA fantasy. The world was so amazing and it was so full of depth, which is something that I've been lacking in a lot of the recent fantasy books that I've read. It just feels like I could step into this world and everything would make sense, and I love that. And I think it's because of the soft world building that was being used. There are like specific rules to magic and different things, but it just felt exciting. I don't know, I just really enjoyed it. I also, of course, loved the characters. Like I was saying before, it very much reminded me of the dynamics of Avatar: The Last Airbender, which is my absolute favorite show ever in existence. So I thought that was absolutely amazing. I thought the pushes and pulls between each of the characters were super cool, and the enemies and just like the anger that some of these characters have towards one another was just like palpable. Like it was just so intense. The one thing I will say is around the halfway point in this book, the pacing slowed way down. I'm not really sure what was going on. It felt like the book was about to end, and then it didn't because it was halfway through the book. Luckily, things like reaching the third act picked up again, but I think it was because of a romance that kind of was inserted into this section, and it just didn't feel very earned or real. It felt a little awkward. And I think that's why the pacing slowed down. So I wasn't a huge fan of like the romance in this book. However, the fantasy in the world and everything in regards to the story overall was absolutely fantastic. Again, super, super great. I cannot wait to read the second book because the ending left off on a huge cliffhanger. So if you are reading this series, I highly recommend getting both books because I'm a little sad that I don't have the second one that I can just start reading. But that being said, I think I'm going to give this book 3.5 to 4 stars. Again, really, really cool world building. It was just kind of the middle that really threw me off for a second. But since I'm still very much in the fantasy mood and mode, I am going to start reading Divine Rivals next. I'm really, really excited to read this since I've seen everyone loving it on TikTok and other places. I feel like it'll be a really fun book to read. Also, it's getting into the evening time, so I wanted to switch over to my Kindle because, again, for some reason, it just keeps me awake better than other physical books. So yeah, let's get reading. Alright, I officially finished Divine Rivals, and it was so good. I really, really enjoyed it, and I was honestly shocked at how much I enjoyed it. It was a very, very fast-paced read, which was perfect for kind of going into the evening. And I really enjoyed how well it meshed together so many different things. It ended up being a workplace rivals to lovers story set in a fantasy version of World War I, where these two characters were journalists kind of documenting the war, and the fantasy aspect of this world very much has Greek mythology vibes in that it basically is a retelling of the story of Persephone and Hades, but slightly different. So lots of things that are like kind of mixed up all together, but it worked really well. It very much has the vibes of like historical fiction, so if you want to get into fantasy but are only really into historical fiction, I feel like this is a perfect kind of bridge for you. It was just a really fun read. I really enjoyed it. I think the only thing that threw me was the very beginning had a lot, and like, I mean a lot, of exposition. And it kind of got annoying, but it wasn't overly complicated exposition, so I wasn't that angry at it. And it also didn't last that long, so I kind of was able to just like get right into the like real meat of the story, which I really enjoyed. The other thing I absolutely loved was the letter writing between the two love interests and the multiple POVs. It really built up their story in a really organic way, and it just made me feel so nice and fluffy on the inside. It was amazing. But I will say that the ending still has me reeling. It was a massive cliffhanger, and it's insane. So, fair warning, this is a book that does not have a sequel out quite yet. The sequel's coming out in December. I found out as I looked it up immediately upon finishing. So, just take that as a warning. There's a big cliffhanger and you will have to wait for the second book. But I highly recommend reading Divine Rivals. It was just, again, a really fun time. But that being said, I'm halfway through the challenge, which is awesome. It is also nighttime, so I will probably not be talking to you until the morning because my husband, Mac, definitely needs sleep. But I am going to start reading my next book, which is going to be If We Were Villains, which is, again, kind of a Shakespearean dark academia novel. So I'm expecting some murder mystery vibes in there, some fall vibes. I am a little nervous because some dark academia books take a little more energy to read, and I am already feeling very delusional and tired, but we will see. So let's hope I make it through the night. Good morning. It is now 6:50, so I have around like 4 hours left of the challenge, and it is light outside. And I was also able to finish If We Were Villains last night, and again, another book that I absolutely loved. I feel like every single book that I've read this challenge has been a winner, which is amazing, especially when it comes to 24-hour readathons. You really want each book to be very fast-paced and exciting, and If We Were Villains is no exception to that. It was absolutely incredible. I really loved all the Shakespearean vibes and references, and how the book itself was written like a Shakespearean play. It was like a very good mesh between a book and a play, and I really enjoyed that. I also am a huge Shakespeare nerd. I took several classes on him in college, and I've read most of his plays several times. So it was really fun to really know the intricacies and the foreshadowing and the research that was done with all of the Shakespearean lines and the plays that were chosen. And also, of course, that this whole book itself was kind of modeled after a Shakespearean tragedy. It was just I loved it. It was a great time. It was a perfect dark academia novel. I will say, if you do not like pretentious people getting in trouble for being, you know, pretentious and not great people, you would not like this book. It very much follows that classic, you know, dark academia trope, but I really enjoyed it because it was my type of pretentious. So, but either way, I am going to jump to the last book, which is Devil in the White City. I know that I'm definitely not going to be able to finish this book. It's over 400 pages and the text is quite tiny. So I am going to just kind of slowly read this. I'm not going to push myself too hard to read as much as possible just because I am quite tired at this point. But yeah, I'm gonna start reading this and I'll let you know what I think halfway through, and then we can catch up once I am all done. So yay! Alright, so the 24 hours is officially up and I am very excited about it, very tired. I got through only 50 pages of The Devil in the White City and I think my brain kind of just stopped operating. I was reading the same page over and over again, and I feel like the writing's really great. I definitely would enjoy it in different circumstances, but as of right now, that book is not working with my brain. So I spent the last 3 or so hours trying to read that book, and it just was not successful. But you know what? That's fine. Totally okay. It just goes to show that sometimes you just can't force it when you don't want to read something anymore. It just is not going to work out for you. So either way, I really enjoy this challenge. I feel like every single book that I did finish was absolutely incredible. And again, with Devil in the White City, I think it was just circumstances. I will definitely give that book another shot when I'm a little more coherent. So yeah. Either way, let's talk general stats. So I was able to read 1,295 pages, which I feel like is pretty impressive, especially since the last couple hours I feel like did not happen. I was able to finish 3 books, and all of those books were above 3 stars. So The Children of Blood and Bone, I think I am gonna give a 3.5 star rating. The Divine Rivals, I am definitely giving a 4-star rating, maybe even a 5. I'm kind of still on the cusp of that one. And If We Were Villains, I'm definitely giving a 4-star rating. All of the books were absolutely fantastic. I really, really enjoyed them, and I highly recommend reading them, especially if you are into fantasy for the first 2, or if you're into dark academia. They just really work with the genres that they're in, and I feel like they expanded in really unique ways that I wasn't expecting. So I really loved them. But I would love to hear your thoughts if you've ever read any of these books and what you thought of them. I love chatting with you guys down below in the comments. It's really, really fun to hear your thoughts. Also, thank you so much if you've gotten this far in the video. And if you like what you saw, it would be absolutely amazing if you could hit subscribe or like this video. It helps so much, and I'm trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We'll see. It'd be really awesome if we could do that. So yeah. Either way, I again hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you all next week. Bye!